Hey guys, what's up? So in today's video, I'm gonna go over Alexander Wong's experience with Lead Academy, pretty much going over how he went from working a minimum wage job as a waiter to now making over $40,000 every month with his cold email agency. So with that being said, I'll let Alex introduce himself, and yeah, so please do.
Awesome, thanks for the introduction, Tyler. It's been a crazy journey. When I first even learned and got into business, I was of course watching some of the bigger influencers in the game, such as like Eman Gadji, Alex Ramosi, and things of that sort, which inspired me to start my own social media marketing agency. And from that point on, as Tyler mentioned, I was working in a restaurant, pretty much doing 40, 60 hours a week, and it was grueling. Even though I'll do say I was pretty good at it, and it's like the one thing, like I don't really like to brag too much, but it was the one thing I was good at. It just took a lot out of you, especially when you deal with a lot of, I don't want to say BS, but pretty much all day long. It's not necessarily something I wanted to continue doing, and I loved business. And throughout high school, I really never enjoyed going to class, or the way that they structured that curriculum just gave me no benefit. So throughout school, I always used to read like business books. I was really into stock trading and things of that sort. But when I was on the go to college or don't go to college route, I was left with a big decision. And this is where I had that SMMA, and I wanted to become a real estate agent because I thought that, oh, this could be possibly what will help me make this six-figure mark. My mom has always stressed to me that you got to make $10,000 a month to even be somewhere in life, right? I started doing that, and I was actually pretty good at it. I sold a couple houses my first year, and even though I knew exactly what I wanted to do, it was pretty good, just like get by and do things. So one day, I won't forget, I came home I closed a house right down the road from me, and I know we've grown up together for quite some time, and it's crazy, but I saw you guys walking outside, you and George, and I was like, hey, I know these guys are always big into business. I want to see what you're up to, or what's going on in your life. So I went outside to get the mail, but in reality, it was actually to talk to you guys and learn from you. And I remember I mentioned at the time I was making YouTube content for basically people like 16 to 25-year-old of how to like build your credit, financial advice, and basically all this motivational things. And I believe George was the one who asked me, why are you posting? And I said to myself, oh, to educate people, right? He's like, no, why are you actually posting? And I sat there thinking about it, like, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, oh, I post to get clients. I was like, explain. And basically, he said, we do this thing called cold email. And I remember you were telling me about like the whole philosophy, and I could never wrap around at the start how you email on behalf of your clients to get them clients. It took me like a couple hours just to grasp that concept. So after you said that, I was like really motivated by that, because I knew that business route is what I wanted to do. And SMMA, even myself, I was thinking like, I rely only on word of mouth and referrals. There's not really a ideal place for me to get clients right now. So considering ads were way out of my budget at the time. There was cold DMs, cold calling, and a bunch of like malarkey stuff that I didn't even want to mess with. So long story short, I remember sitting there, I was just like, all right, can you do it right now? I want to learn right now. And we went out, we walked around, you explained basically the whole thing to me. And I thought this was fascinating and how I could learn more. This was basically at that start of when you were telling me about Lead Academy. And I just went on vacation to Florida that year. And I remember when you first said you should join and check it out. So I went, I joined, and just started watching all the videos. And I took, you wouldn't believe it, I have like 4 or 5 notebooks just full of notes from Lead Academy. And from that point on, I was like, wait a minute, instead of doing SMMA, why don't I just do what you guys were saying as the service to people? Because I feel like it was something very niche that not a lot of people were doing, and it just made complete sense. Instead of sending it to strangers or random people going one by one and one, I could send it to hundreds to thousands of people who exactly
a lot more affordable now.
A lot more affordable, exactly who I wanted to be speaking to, like decision makers at companies. So I just went in on it, and from that point on, I never thought I would ever be in this space, but thanks to literally that one specific moment, it changed my life.
100%. Yeah, I remember we were going out, we were walking, saw you, and then, from there, obviously, it was very beneficial. It was very beneficial for you And then obviously, you know, I always remember you were writing in the notebook, sending us pictures like, yo, I'm reading this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And again, right, that's kind of where, and everything you took to actually, you know, make the money you're making now and kind of live the life you want to now. So with that, right, obviously kind of from everything you've consumed with Lead Academy, all the tools, all the utilities, whatever, you know, you use from that, kind of, you know, what was the next step after consuming all the education? Now, what was the next step after that?
Yeah, the next step was thinking about, as I said, I took all that knowledge, and just like you mentioned, I remember I was sending you the pictures, and I believe I told George about it too. He's like, damn, you finished all that in a week? I was like, yes, I'm really about this. And I basically, even my parents were like, yo, we're on vacation, you got to enjoy yourself. And I was, I think you were doing that live stream for
webinar.
Lead Academy, the webinar. And my parents were at the beach, and I was like, all right, I got to lock into this. So the next steps from that point was basically transitioning what I was doing in SMMA to adapt to this cold email model. So I started building out the systems, going into a lot of different automations, and figuring out how I can smoothly, at the start, I know it was going to be a bumpy road, but just smoothly be able to actually like get my first client and make sure that we're able to properly deliver. And I remember I had a couple campaigns, and I've went to you several times for coaching, and you helped me revamp my one script that made my first campaign take off. And after I saw that, I remember, I'll never forget, I booked my first ever meeting, and I sat there, I was like, whoa. This is just the beginning.
Real.
Like it actually works. So I just begin over time to keep tweaking that, and eventually, right, I signed my first client, and I was like, all right,
there you go.
This is
a good
huge
feeling.
deal now. And I was shocked. I'm like, basically by me talking and explaining, I was able to get a client. And then even the greater feeling was being able to fulfill for that person. And then now just doing that consistently time and time again. And I just fell in love with that process.
That's exactly what like all of like the people in Lead Academy too, like on our coaching calls or anything, they give that exact same like experience, or what they take like similar to what you're explaining, where, you know, because obviously, you know, on the coaching calls explaining the sales part, because obviously that goes into cold email, right? It's not just like, you know, you send out emails and call it a day, right? There's sales, right? That obviously, you know, sales questions that we help with. There's obviously the scripts, the lead list, getting the data, where to purchase the data for a more affordable price, and all these different like little things that obviously is super useful. And it took us obviously years to actually make that, like to understand that, because there's very minimal coaching programs like that, like in the cold email space. So
even your YouTube videos too as well. I mean, I watched every single one of your videos and George's. And those, like, just a way that if I were to learn that on my own, it would have taken not more than 2 times, like 4 times the amount of time it would have took me without that.
It's surprising. I mean, it's surprising that there's not like you know, a lot of other ones, or a lot of other coaching programs like Lead Academy. So I mean, it makes sense. So now, kind of take me through, I know you mentioned, right, obviously, education, what you did, the little things that you took to actually build up that knowledge base of cold email, business, whatever, and then kind of how you started. So with that, you know, how long has it been since you've actually been going at it with, you know, with cold email, with your business, and kind of where are you now? Like actually, like how many clients, kind of what's your day-to-day on as far as like, you know, what you do in your business, kind of even some struggles or something that, you know, you've kind of overcome, whether it's with or without Lead Academy?
Yeah, good question. So we've made this transition basically from offering only cold email, because I have a lot of knowledge in artificial intelligence and AI space. So we've basically combined that to make a, as I like to call it, your ultimate outbound system, especially for those who rely on word of mouth, referrals, or basically don't know how to bridge that gap between where they are now to their desired goals in the future. And right now we're doing about 15 clients or so, right? I know you mentioned around that 40K mark is, I think we're just a little bit over actually. Last month, like
it's crazy
42. And I just think that's so wild to me, because as I told you in the beginning, like this never was my actual goal.
You were literally working as a waiter, right, serving, and it's such a quick, like right to your main goal that you wanted, a very quick pace, and like it's super impressive. Obviously, that's why we're having the video today and everything. It's super impressive, and obviously your age and everything like that. So yeah, but keep going.
And I remember, during those times, I was pulling crazy hours, but I used to look at those like 1.2, 1.4K paychecks. I was pulling in like a little bit over 5K a month from just waitering, and I thought that no other kid my age was doing that, and I thought that was absolutely crazy. But so yeah, we transitioned basically to this growth partner, because I always talk to a lot of my clients like, hey, what happened with so-and-so lead? They're like, oh, we had a good meeting. We're gonna see if they have interest. I'm like, oh, do you have a follow-up meeting? And they're like, oh, no. I was like, do you have a CRM? They're like, oh, we don't have one. So I was like, okay, well, these are some issues that are part of the sales process where, of course, the energy and effort that myself and my team put into creating these campaigns and getting the leads, no doubt about, I want to see you convert them. That's obviously the main goal of working with us. So by going into their sales process and helping them fix those things and coaching them on closing those deals and overall how to create that proper funnel, especially if it's their first time going into outbound, then it allows us to work with less people, but also continue on the same path for growth by consistently helping our clients' business, and both have the same goal, right? Whatever their goal is going to be our goal. And we're going to do everything in the power because it's a custom solution, right? It's all a numbers game with cold email. You find that industry average is 1,000 emails to book a call.
It's very linear.
Now you know that if you want 10 calls, you can close about 30%. You get 3 new clients a month. So you have to send, what, 10,000 emails? All right, you want 6 clients next month? 20,000 emails, and that's it. And by just adding all those different little parts, like we've integrated with LinkedIn, AI employees for cold calling and such of that sort, and it just gives you the absolute best chance to convert that prospect. And I just think that all this information, of course, the way that you've built the foundation in any business, it doesn't need to be just cold email or an outbound sales process. You can't start stacking those pillars unless you have the foundation. I think just
100%.
by building that from you guys and then able to add what I've learned along the way, the mistakes, the wins, taking that all into account, it allows me now to go in every day and talk to my team, strategize and coordinate. Like, even still, I know it's been a little bit now, but having full-time employees is just something that's like also blown my mind. Like, I pay people salaries, and that just is shocking to me. Because like I'm able to provide for those people, and we have great culture fit as well. Like, I love my team to death, and just going in there every day saying, all right guys, this is what we need to coordinate, this is what we need to work on, and being able to teach them what you learn from me. And at the same time, when we post content and things of that sort, we're also able to help, like all the questions I had that I've written down in notebooks and stuff over the years, it allows me to answer those for others who also are interested or
just from the
wanting to learn more, or even some of the more educated business owners, again, who haven't dabbled into outbound. I'm able to express that very simply to them and easily be able to grasp that concept.
100%. I mean, with that too, like I know you mentioned like kind of like the struggles, pains, kind of things. Obviously, business like that. That's why business is so hard, because it's the biggest bumpy road you can ever kind of go through. So with that, on a day-to-day, like, what are you physically doing to kind of overcome those types of struggles and pains? Right? Is it more of a kind of just figure out as it goes? Do you have set plans set up? Like, what exactly are you doing? What is that thought process between kind of solving those struggles?
Yeah, of course. It comes down to, I would say a majority is a good mix of both. So you're going to have some things where it's like, all right, if you haven't had a new industry before, or you haven't worked with a specific type of client, or you have a new issue, that all kind of will fall under that, like, you got to figure it out, right? You got to do your homework. And the whole thing with business, right? I'm sure you know the saying. It's a very simple thing, but it's not easy. And by being an excellent problem solver, I think that almost relates to more of your skill level than having, I don't know, let's just say like, if you're a master marketer, right? But if you're really, really good at problem solving, then you're able to figure out all these tiny puzzle pieces. That's how I like to best relate to it. Basically, with business, you have this huge, huge picture, basically a never-ending puzzle piece. And as you begin to learn these skills or have these problems, you begin to slowly stack those puzzle pieces to create a clearer picture. And when it comes to solving some of those things, when you just figure it out by diving headfirst into it, again, there's going to be times where you're going to maybe succeed off the bat, or there's times where it's not going to work. Then you just continuously test and swap things in out. You do more research, learn about how to fix a solution, and eventually when you find something, you just step on the gas pedal to help it.
You do more what's already working.
Exactly.
Obviously.
Right. We have several scenarios where we have had clients who came to us, don't really know the exact ideal customer profile that they want to be reaching out to. And we've helped them basically, like, let's say I have this one client, we've tested e-com, we've tested real estate, we've tested property managers and all these different industries. And we found this one industry that we saw some results, we tweaked the wording a little bit because we made it even more clearer, easily understanding, and then boom, the campaign took off. And now we just keep doing that same campaign.
Replicating the process.
Booking, 15.
Getting more clients like that specific client so you can, kind of replicate that success for not just them, but 10 other ones like that.
Exactly.
That's all a business is. It's like a replicatable thing. Like the better you are at, number one, replicating it, and number two, like the better you are with actually like, with the actual results you can get from the replication, like you're just going to scale very quickly. So
exactly.
That's kind of, obviously that's all business. Another thing I want to ask is kind of, we've had some past, students in Lead Academy, and I do always ask this question, but what is something that you wish you just knew when it came to, now, earlier? Like what's something you wish you knew earlier coming into the business now, right? Whether that's something you've kind of messed up on in your business, right? Something you're like, damn, I shouldn't have done that or whatever, like on a day-to-day kind of type of thing. So what would that be?
Ooh, that's a tough question. Day-to-day, I would say, maybe like coming down to systemizing the process and skipping past it over like thinking stage, right?
Yeah.
Like I know this sounds like very basic and simple of an answer, but just when I went first into it, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what would be perfect or what would be a good time to reach out. And over time, I slowly realized that basically speed to implementation was way more significant in terms of generating results and trying to make it perfect the first time.
Yeah.
And by doing that, it allowed us to overcome a lot of fears of, let's say that I'm not sure if this will work, maybe this word shouldn't be here, and just instead of just going into it, I think if I really adapted that very clearly at the beginning, it would allow us to take bigger steps forward.
Yeah.
And same thing with what I just mentioned for like systemizing stuff, right? There's a lot of processes, right, that especially go into outbound or just cold email in general, right?
Yeah.
Whether you have sending tools, whether you have lead lists, whether you have deliverability, copy, spin taxing, call to actions, there's so many different parts that go everywhere.
A lot of variables with it.
Right. So when you have a systemized process of the way that I feel like that if I had this from the beginning, like in terms of, let's just say like a knowledge database, like when you create a campaign, it's very like direct steps.
Yeah.
You should do research, you should do this, you should do that, create the copy, and then just kind of like go in that order. And we just kind of, I don't want to say like freeballed it, but basically that's what it was. We just kind of took shots every time, while instead of we should have had it like more
you can't scale like
systemized
that
and lined up.
You have a bunch of different clients going in and out, and they kind of go through a different type of process. Some goes this way, some goes this way.
Exactly.
If you have systems in place, it's literally like building a car, and you just keep pumping, gasoline into it, whatever, and it keeps going. And that's like the best way to systemize your business. But
and it's funny you say that because that's the exact reference that we use for our growth plan for our clients. And just coming to adopting that 80-20 mindset, let's say like 80% systemized, 20% customized, that is huge, especially when we got stuck at a certain point, like let's say around that 20K mark and ran into like operational problems. That mindset allowed us to basically break past that hurdle, and instead of being on this like rigid seesaw where it's between getting leads and fulfilling clients and you're hitting that ceiling of filling clients, it just made the process a lot easier and allowed us to take it to the next level.
And actually, speaking about the next level, what are your plans for the next, let's just say, where do you see yourself in 12 months from now? Like, revenue, employees, clients, whatever it is, like where do you see yourself kind of, in a year?
Yeah, I'm unfortunately like notorious for underestimating myself. Even like last year, I had like quarter 2, quarter 3 things like hire a CSM or start building out a sales team like down the line. And like quarter 1, I was like, damn, I need these things right now. So I don't want to underestimate it, but in 12 months from now, I would love to be able to see us at like that, I would say 125, 150K a month mark. And
it's crazy to even say that.
It sounds not real to even say that out loud, but the fact that, again, like when you break it down to the numbers, right? It's just very much possible, and especially when we're consistently generating the results that we are, and just as you said, the lookalikes, man, just reach out to more people, offering the same solution, leveraging the same results you've done before, then getting that person doing like almost like this type of interview thing, then mentioning to the other person like, hey John, you're just like Mary, who we helped get this result in.
That comes with replication, right?
Yep.
With replicating your service delivery, you're also replicating your sales process, and that's all that is. That's how you can actually, that's like the exact formula, and I want to call it the silver bullet to actually scaling your business, is systemize everything. You'll be able to scale. You can choose, okay, I want 100 clients, or I want 200, or I want 300. You can choose that, which that's kind of the best position to be in. So
and then it comes down to, of course, being a specialist, right? So yeah, down that line, I see us having a really solid foundation of clients, and because we're able to go into our client's business and help them go from that pain to the goal, then hit the next goal, then turn that goal after that, we grow with them. And at that time as well, I'd love to be able, have a full, I would say, like, client success manager team, have like the marketing department, right? Everyone taking care of those positions and having them report back to me. Then same thing on the sales side. And at that point, personally for me, I don't want to be that founder that, let's say, like, disappears out the picture. I want to be active day to day. I want to go through all the processes and just make sure that I have the right team that's functioning together, as well as growing in different avenues, like ads, something really big I want to get into as well. And just start pouring everything into basically taking it to these goals, like the 12-month goal you said, the 24-month goal, and then time after that.
100%. And non-revenue, non-team wise, kind of what are you planning on, not even just as your cold email agency? You mentioned a little bit about like paid ads or whatever. Like, what are you planning on to do? Are you planning on to do this agency for the next few years? Kind of what's that plan? And kind of, from there, at a business standpoint, not like a revenue or number standpoint.
Of course. So basically my idea is that even for the next 4 to 5 years, I want to be in this for the long run right now. I want to be able just to continuously grow this business and bring us to those points that I mentioned before. And while we're in the game at that time, I really want to dabble into the ultimate goal of what I call is creating an AI outbound sales machine that allow you, just like this, basically to print clients on demand. That's my overall, like, I don't want to say end goal, because I don't really see like an end right now, but that's the goal that's in sight. And basically by dabbling into ads, mastering that, have intelligent people being able to help us manage that, right? Whether it's coaching, whether it's hire talent and things of that sort, allow us to really grow in those departments. And basically I think we've mastered cold calling with our AI employees. Cold email, we're almost basically at that point as well. LinkedIn, we're growing on there. And then we add ads. I think this will be just the most marketing proper funnel. And a lot of people have the misconception that, like, oh, maybe cold outbound doesn't work for me, or we're too niche. And in those case scenarios, that actually gives you like the most leverage as well. And
people don't think it works, but when you do it, and it works very well, kind of keep the people on the side.
Exactly, and we've grown our business basically from where we're at nothing to this 40 plus going on and on future mark, just from cold email.
Just cold email, So it's a powerful
crazy
tool. Like it's like one of the better. You're directly going to someone's inbox, so it makes sense why it works. Now, obviously, everything you mentioned, thus far about your plans for the future, giving out from specifically cold email, ads, things, growing your company as a whole. My question to you is kind of, why are you still in Lead Academy, right? Like, what is keeping you? Because obviously you're still paying on a monthly basis. Like, what is keeping you in our community, right? Because again, you're making a lot of money. What other information or what other things are you using on a daily basis, if you even are,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do. It's actually funny because right now I do pay for Lead Academy for all my team members too. I'm sure you saw a couple of them are in there. The tools that you guys have are a huge help as well to us. And a lot of those discounts, I mean, we've saved thousands a month from even your inboxes, right? The private sequencer, and those discounts actually are insanely beneficial. They add up, and especially your tools as well. Being able to scrape those databases is giving us another avenue to source leads as well. So whether it's stored leads for like e-com brands, Clutch, the Clutch scraper. We've been using that for years, and it's consistently been the best database for us. Consistently. And it wouldn't have been possible without the Lead Academy tool scraper. So that's why we continue to use it every single month, me and my team, because it gives us just another avenue, again, to source leads from. And every time we have ways to use several different databases and like get the decision makers, reach out to them, then we could even leverage some of that information as well.
So you'd say majority tools, and obviously, we've had some other people do the same thing where it wasn't even just the tools, it was just even like the actual content they're providing to their team, because it's like free like there's free instructions, free SOPs on how to do this. Like a lot of people just give it to their team. Is that something similar you do, or you just kind of use it more for the tools? Or
yeah, typically, honestly, right now we use it more for the tools. We have a bunch of internal SOPs going over like similar stuff from there. But again, if you're another agency as well, having that as like an SOP guide, the way you explained it, again, it helped me begin it, and when you have a team who's already knowledgeable in the field,
they can just keep
replicating it, and building on top of that as well.
Got it.
So it's definitely a very good opportunity in that department as well.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Yeah, and then again, kind of with that, if you either talked yourself in the past or just trying to talk to someone, getting into cold email, kind of what would you ask them or what would you tell them as far as the steps to actually learn cold email? Just like the actual like things you need to know. Like, what would you recommend for them? If someone was starting out.
This has been one of my favorite questions I've always asked business owners when I did like interviews and stuff, even for my business or real estate.
Yeah.
So it's always fun to be on the opposite side of the question. But in my honest opinion, if I could go back and tell myself those years ago that like, listen, here's what I know now, this is what you need to know, or even just people who are aspiring to learn it or get into it in general, just take the leap, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, time and time again, I've seen a lot of people I've known, I'm sure you've had very similar cases where they're like, oh, how do you do that? You sit down there with them, you give them the spiel, tell them about it, and then they just do nothing with that information. And then they continue to like preach that, oh, I want to be successful or whatnot, but they don't necessarily want to put in the work, or they're just scared of taking the risk. You have to make the leap. I can't remember if, I think it was with George. We were on the golf course together, and it was really when cold email started to take off. He was like, dude, listen, you just got to lock in full time to this. I was like, because I was complaining, I was like stressed out, I'm trying to do restaurants.
There's a lot of things going on.
He's like, just quit. I'm like, dude, I don't know if I can. He's like, just do it. I sat there for like a good ponder 2 seconds. I don't know if I flipped the coin or whatnot, but I was just like, all right. I got on the phone, I was like, listen, I'm gonna have to respectfully put in my 2 weeks, and I'll be honest with you, I was scared shitless.
Yeah.
I didn't know, obviously, whether like this was gonna be the right choice to drop that, like, I guess like financial security.
It's a big risk,
basically,
and
it's a big risk, and I just decided to go all in on it, and it obviously showed that it paid off. And I just think that for people who are either younger or trying to get into just either growing their business in general, it doesn't need to be if you're just starting out, is to take the leap and just continuously put in the effort, because one day it'll pay off. It's just like going to the gym. Just like going to the gym.
And it's just consistency. It's just getting the right information and kind of growing on that. And not only taking the information and kind of getting it from other people, competitors, stuff like that.
Putting it to use.
Exactly. Putting it to use and just building up on it and making it even better. Like using it as steps to your staircase you're creating, if that makes sense.
Right. Just like how we made the transition to AI. Like you guys didn't even mention anything about that.
You kind of build up on that by yourself. That's all business is, right? Taking whatever works and then kind of making it better. So 100%. But with that being said, right, this was an amazing interview. One thing I obviously do want to ask is kind of where people can obviously find you on social, stuff like that. If you want to let them know, whatever.
Of course, yes. We have a huge YouTube channel, Alex Wong. You can check it out on that platform. We also have Twitter, Instagram. Twitter is going to be Alex Wong as well. And Instagram is _AWG29. So that's where we're at. If anybody ever wants to reach out to, or if you have questions about business or anything, we're very helpful. Our team is super insightful and very welcome arms into people who want to be able to learn business or are interested in this outbound path. And we're more than happy just to share free advice and give out knowledge, basically, because it's just backed by my brand's value. It's what we do. Honest, transparent, and teaching everybody basically about this.
Yeah. And last one, would you recommend Lead Academy to people watching this video?
Yeah. As I said before, it was a huge stepping stone to basically where we are now, and I almost feel that without it, I don't necessarily know that we would be at where we are now without it. So definitely for anybody, again, who's looking to scale their business, or basically at that point where they want to begin one, or just basically learn about it, I would have to recommend it. Whether any industry, really. If you're an agency, even people in construction, if you're trying to get in contact with, like, I don't know, like Starbucks is to build locations,
commercial,
or
whatever, yeah.
you want to just learn cold email as a vehicle. The tools are, as I told you, beneficial enough for where we even continue to use it to this day.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say that it's worth every penny. It's too cheap, man.
All right, awesome. So thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for the video.
Of course.
All
Take
right.
care.
See you guys later. Thank you for watching.